Welcome to this session on recognizing the signs of trauma. We will cover trauma responses, how trauma impacts the body and mind, boundaries, and assertiveness. So here's what we will be covering today. Trauma responses, what they are and why they happen, a video of explaining the 5 Fs of trauma responses, how trauma impacts the body and mind, boundaries and why they're important, and how to be more assertive in setting and maintaining boundaries. So let's start by looking at what happens in the brain when someone experiences trauma. When someone experiences a dangerous or distressing situation, our brain reacts instinctively, choosing the safest, choosing the option that it thinks would be the safest for us. So this happens before we even have time to think. Before we play this video, quick content warning. While not graphic, it discusses trauma responses and it may be difficult for some to watch, so please do take care of yourself.
Understanding how trauma can affect the brain is key to understanding why people affected may experience some uncomfortable feelings or act in a certain way. Our brain can be broken down into 3 parts. The neocortex. This is the rational part of our brain that helps us plan and make decisions. We share this with primates. The limbic system. This is the emotional part of our brain that processes how we feel and how we store memories. We share this with most mammals. Reptilian brain. This is the survival part of our brain that will act on instinct to protect us from harm. We share this with lizards and snakes. When we experience a traumatic event, the different parts of the brain will react to try and protect us. The reptilian brain, the survival part, will instinctively respond without communicating with the neocortex, the rational part. These traumatic memories can be stored in the limbic brain, the emotional part of the brain, and used again to recognize future potential threats. If another threat is perceived, even if there is no real danger, this can trigger the previous memory and how we coped last time. Understanding that the brain reacts naturally, responds instinctively, then decides what to do before we even have a chance to process what is happening can help people move forward. Recovery happens when the mind and body both learn that the trauma is over, you've survived it, and you are safe now. Let's take a look at the different reactions when faced with stress or trauma. Imagine you are walking through the park on a warm and sunny day. You hear the birds singing and see the bees buzzing around, and life is blissful. But wait, you hear a noise behind you. As you turn and look, there is a huge crocodile heading towards you. What happens to your body and mind at this point? At the point you see the crocodile, you will naturally respond using either fight, flight, freeze, flop, or friend mode. Your brain goes into safety mode, and so your body reacts in the way it thinks it can keep you safe best. So what are the different responses and what do they mean? Fight is a resistance option, such as fighting back the threat. Flight is an escape option. An example could be to run away or get away from the threat. Freeze is a response where you tense up, stay still, and hope that the threat doesn't see you. An example could be playing dead. Flop is a reaction where your body goes all loose and offers no resistance. It can be seen as a response to reduce pain or shut off from the reality of the perceived threat. Friend is a reaction that sees you seeking help, shouting out, or where you try and negotiate with a perceived threat. This could be pleading or bribing, for example. When you're in survival mode, your body is pumped with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate will increase and your breathing will increase, so you take in more oxygen. You will be focused on survival, so you won't be thinking about what you're having for dinner or whether you left your straighteners on. What usually happens after a person is safe is that their hormone and stress levels in their body will start to stabilize, and after about 45 minutes, they will be back to the original levels. However, if a person were in a situation where they never felt safe, and so stress levels never went back to being stable, they will experience higher exposure to stress, and this will lead on to toxic stress. This could be because of the same experience reoccurring or a series of different experiences. It also means there is a good chance that you are more likely to be wary of people and untrusting, as your brain is constantly in survival mode. This increase in stress builds into what is known as a person's allostatic load.
So, as the video showed, these responses are natural. One response that's often misunderstood is the friend response. So, instead of fighting back or running, some people instinctively appease or befriend the person harming them. This is especially common in domestic abuse cases where staying agreeable may be the safest option. So survivors, they often feel guilt, wondering why they did not leave or fight back. But it's really important to remember that this was the brain's way of protecting them.
So, in order to move forward and move on from the situation, it's very important that you're understanding and empathetic towards yourself. And also, key to this is understanding that you reacted instinctively. When trauma occurs, your brain's survival mechanisms kick in automatically. Recognizing this natural response allows you to avoid self blame and reflect more clearly afterwards. Recovery happens when your mind and body realize that trauma is over, you've survived it, and you're safe now. And this shift in perspective is key towards healing, as it enables you to consciously move past the initial instinctive reactions and reclaim a sense of safety and control. So, what are some of the impacts and signs of trauma? Now, this is a subjective experience. It looks different on everyone. There are some that are different, there are some that are new, but here are some of the most common ones that we have experienced. Um, Trauma impacts your nervous system uh, through hypervigilance, exaggerated startle response, or sleep disturbances. It also affects your musculoskeletal system with tension and pain, especially muscle tightness, especially in your shoulders, your back, your neck, and jaw. These are often common. Chronic pain or stiffness. These are very unexplained somatic pain that happens in different parts of your body or just one part of your body. Postural changes. Most people describe this as like a collapse or withdrawal in the way that they conduct themselves. It also impacts your heart and circulatory system. So it could be increased heart rate, chest pain, high blood pressure. This is very common to those who already have heart problems. It also affects your digestive system through stomach issues, loss of appetite, or overeating. This is very common for children, constipation and diarrhea. It can also affect your skin. So you could have rashes or hives that is unexplained. You could have acne and other skin issues. Sweating, it could be excessive sweating or less sweating if it's something that you notice about your body. It also affects your respiratory system. So it could be shortness of breath, hyperventilation, tightness in the chest. It also has impacts on your immune system. So you could have weakened immunity. So you're getting sick very often, increased susceptibility to infections such as cold, flu, and other very common infectious diseases. So, boundaries. Now, when we talk about trauma, we have to talk about boundaries. And when we're talking about boundaries, we're referring to the limits we set for ourselves in order to protect our well being and maintain healthy relationships. Boundaries define our personal tolerance levels and outline what we are and aren't willing to accept from others. These are essential for maintaining a sense of autonomy and ensuring our emotional, physical, and mental safety. Boundaries are closely linked to consent, and as we know, consent has different layers. They reflect our right to say yes or no to situations and interactions, and they help communicate what we need and don't need from others. Some examples of boundaries might include taking time to focus on yourself. This boundary ensures that you prioritize self care and your personal needs over external demands and people. Personal space. Everyone has their own comfort zone when it comes to physical proximity, and setting boundaries around personal space helps prevent discomfort or feelings of being violated. Expressing personal thoughts and feelings. Setting boundaries around emotional expression allows you to share your feelings with others in a way that feels safe, while also respecting your need for privacy when needed. In essence, boundaries help us navigate a world in a way that protects our emotional and physical well being first, and also helps foster relationships with others and ourselves. Now, you might think, why are boundaries important? Now, boundaries are crucial for maintaining a balanced and healthy life. They help define what we need in order to thrive, and they provide a framework for protecting our emotional, mental, and physical well being. So, here's an expanded look on why boundaries are so important. making the right choice for you personally without feeling guilty. So, boundaries empower you to make decisions that are based on your needs without feeling the guilt and the pressure that we often feel from others. They help us take care of ourselves emotionally and physically. Boundaries protect your well being, ensuring you have time for self care and preventing burnout. They help us practice self respect by standing our ground. Setting boundaries shows self respect by standing firm in your values, beliefs, and needs. Maintaining healthy relationships. Boundaries promote respect, communication, ensuring relationships remain balanced and healthy. This also has a direct impact on the relationship you have with yourself. You are not selfish. Boundaries are not about self selfishness or anything else but your self-care. Helping and allowing you to show up for yourself and others in a very healthy way. They set the guidelines for how you want to be treated. Boundaries define how you expect to be treated, teaching others to respect those and set other limits. So, why do you think we might not stick to our boundaries? While setting and maintaining boundaries is crucial for our well being, it is very common to struggle with sticking up to them. And we often see this with women. Often we face internal barriers or fears that prevent us from enforcing our limits. In this section, we'll explore a little bit about why and some of the reasons why we may not set boundaries or avoid setting boundaries, and how to shift our mindset to embrace this assertiveness and self care that we're talking about. So, you don't want to come across as rude and aggressive. Again, very common, something a lot of women experience and a lot of young children as well. We often avoid enforcing boundaries because we fear being perceived as rude and aggressive, even though setting limits is a form of self respect, not hostility. It's very important that you remember that setting these boundaries is not going to come across as being rude and aggressive. It's about you caring for yourself, and that's always the priority. We confuse it with letting someone down or being unkind. Setting boundaries can feel like we're letting others down or being unkind. And I think this is very common, especially when, we've already allowed someone to behave in a certain way towards us and now we are expecting that change. But in reality, you're honoring your needs and you're not compromising on your well-being. So again, something to remember. We find it hard to say no. Saying no can be difficult, especially when we worry about disappointing others or causing conflict. Again, you need to remember that this is not about anyone else but yourself. So when you say no, you're protecting your time, energy, peace, and emotional health.
Okay, so next we'll be talking about assertiveness. So many people struggle with boundaries because they don't want to seem rude or unkind, but not setting boundaries means we let ourselves down. Assertiveness helps us communicate our needs clearly while remaining respectful. So some examples that you can see here are, for example, I appreciate the invite, but I'm not going to make it. Please do not speak to me that way. I am not comfortable discussing that. And anyone can learn to be assertive. It just takes practice. So some ways to practice assertiveness include knowing your own limits, be clear what you are and are not comfortable with. Use clear I statements, saying things like I feel or I need to express yourself directly. Being clear to everyone what your boundaries are. Make sure that others understand your limits so they know what is acceptable. And starting small, practice assertiveness in low stake situations to build confidence. For example, politely declining an invitation to a party that you did not want to attend. Being prepared for reactions. Not everyone will respond well, but that's okay. Just stick to your boundaries. Learning to say no. Saying no is healthy and necessary for self-respect, even if it can feel uncomfortable. And recognizing that assertiveness and aggression are different. So being firm and respectful is different from being rude. And finally, we have an empty box here. So this is a moment for you to think about the tip that works for you or something you want to try to be more assertive. And that brings us to the end of this session. We hope this has helped you understand trauma responses, the impact on the body and mind, and assertiveness. Thank you for watching, and we hope you found this information useful.